Captain Zara Quinn strode through the polished halls of the Galactic Collective's embassy on the capital planet of the Galactic Empire, her steps echoing on cold metal floors. The corridors were unnaturally tall, designed to accommodate towering species from across the galaxy. Around her, dignitaries from distant stars whispered in their native tongues, a susurrus of voices that seemed to follow her every move. Zara ignored them. Today was too important to waste on second-guessing. Earth's place in the galaxy was at stake, and she was here to make it clear that humanity had come to be heard. When she reached the embassy's main chamber, 2 golden-armored sentries crossed their spears, halting her. Their violet eyes studied her with a blend of curiosity and disdain, as if amused by the sight of a human in the halls of the collective. "Identify yourself," one of them rasped. "Captain Zara Quinn of Earth's Defense Fleet," she replied crisply. Her voice was steady, but her hands clenched at her sides, hidden by her uniform. The guards shared a smirk before stepping aside. She walked past them and entered the chamber, the vast dome of the Collective's meeting hall rising around her. At its center sat Lord Krelix Voss, High Commander of the Empire's military. His emerald-green scales glinted under the artificial lights, and his long, angular face stretched into a grin when he saw her approach. His attendants, wrapped in silver robes, clustered around him like orbiting moons, each watching Zara with the same dismissive gleam in their eyes. "Ah, the human representative has arrived," Krelix drawled, his voice rolling through the chamber with a practiced grandeur. He leaned back in his chair, exuding the relaxed arrogance of someone who knew he commanded respect. "Earth must be so proud. A shame, though, that you're here alone. I had hoped to see your fleet. Do humans even have such a thing?" Zara forced a thin smile. "We do," she said, her voice polite but firm. "Earth may be new to the collective, but we've learned quickly." Krelix's grin widened. "So I've heard. A most primitive way of learning, I'm sure. It's remarkable you even managed to travel this far." He glanced at his attendants, and they chuckled on cue. "Tell me, Captain, did your vessel break down along the way?" Zara felt the heat rising in her cheeks but kept her expression neutral. She wasn't here to trade insults. "We came prepared, Lord Krelix. I trust the same can be said of your ships." The briefest flicker of irritation crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with a laugh. "My dear Captain, our Empire has vessels that patrol half the galaxy without so much as a whisper of trouble. Earth is fortunate the collective permitted it to join. We have standards, you know." He leaned forward, his yellow eyes gleaming. "But tell me, Zara, may I call you Zara? What does Earth hope to achieve here, among advanced civilizations?" Zara met his gaze without flinching. "We're here to contribute, to collaborate, and to stand as equals." Krelix's laugh echoed through the hall, sending ripples of laughter from his entourage. "Equals, she says? Oh, this is rich." He shook his head, leaning back and regarding her like an amusing experiment. "Earth may have scraped its way into the stars, but it'll take more than ambition to impress the Empire. Do you think a few human ships pose a threat? Our smallest vessels could crush them like insects." Zara clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay calm. This was the behavior Earth had expected: condescension, arrogance, the assumption that humanity was insignificant. But she knew her mission here wasn't to convince Krelix to like her. It was to make Earth's position known. And if she succeeded, they'd earn the respect they deserved. "Humanity may be young," Zara replied, her tone even. "But don't mistake youth for weakness. We adapt, we learn quickly, and we're more resilient than you might think. You'll see that in time." "Resilient," Krelix mused, as if savoring the word. "A charming quality for a species that's spent most of its history in the dirt." He narrowed his eyes, and his voice lowered to a venomous whisper. "But you're mistaken if you think you belong here. The Empire has ruled these galaxies long before Earth's suns even formed. We don't need your help. In fact," he sneered, "we'd be better off without you dragging us backward." Zara straightened, forcing herself to meet his gaze without flinching. "Earth may be new to the stars," she said, her voice cool, "but it will never let any species dictate its future. We're here to stay, whether you like it or not. Krelix's eyes flickered with something like anger, but he covered it with a thin smile. You're bold for a human. But do you understand the gravity of your words? The Empire does not tolerate disturbances. Zara held his gaze. Neither does Earth. If you want us to prove our capabilities, we'll be ready. We don't need permission to stand our ground. Silence fell over the room as her words echoed through the hall. For a brief moment, Krelix's mask slipped, and she saw the flash of irritation in his eyes. He wasn't used to being challenged by anyone, especially not by a human. Zara knew she'd crossed a line, but she wasn't here to play it safe. If Earth was going to earn its place, someone had to take the risk. The silence broke as Krelix barked a laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. Very well, Captain Quinn. Earth wishes to stand its ground. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with mock respect. Then by all means prepare yourselves. The Empire is not interested in playing diplomat with upstarts, so if you truly believe Earth can contribute here, prove it. He stood, gesturing for his attendants to follow. As they filed out, he paused in the doorway, glancing back at her. But don't get your hopes up, Captain. Earth may not even survive the first demonstration. When the doors shut behind him, Zara let out a slow breath, finally releasing the tension that had coiled within her. She was alone now, the vast chamber echoing with the faint hum of the galaxy beyond. Krelix's threat lingered in her mind, sharp as a blade. But she hadn't come this far to let fear define her. She thought of her ship, the ISS Vanguard, waiting in orbit. Earth's newest weapon, teleportation technology, was untested in open space, and even her own crew was skeptical. Yet it was her responsibility to prove that humanity was more than the Empire believed. They had the technology, the courage, and the will. All they needed now was the chance. Straightening her shoulders, Zara turned and left the chamber. She had preparations to make. Back aboard the ISS Vanguard, Captain Zara Quinn felt the familiar hum of the ship beneath her feet. She took a steadying breath as she entered the command center, the heart of Earth's first teleport-capable vessel. Around her, her crew moved with calm efficiency, each of them aware that they stood on the edge of something unprecedented for humanity. Lieutenant Harper turned from the central console as she entered, his dark eyes studying her face for any sign of how the meeting had gone. "Captain," he greeted, a hint of wariness in his tone. "How did it go with the esteemed Lord Krelix?" Zara shook her head. "About as well as you'd expect. He believes we're a primitive species playing at space travel and expects us to fail." She allowed a brief smirk. "So it's up to us to prove him wrong." Harper's lips quirked into a grin, though his eyes remained serious. "Just another day on the Vanguard, then." "Exactly." Zara scanned the room, catching the gaze of each officer, the weight of responsibility settling more heavily on her shoulders. "The Empire is planning a demonstration near our territories, likely a pretext to push into Earth space. Krelix is counting on us to sit back and watch." Her eyes narrowed. "We're not going to give him that satisfaction." The crew exchanged glances. They'd all felt the sting of the collective's dismissive attitude toward Earth, and the Empire's outright contempt only hardened their resolve. Zara stepped up to the command console, tapping a few keys to bring up the ship's latest scans and telemetry. "How's the prototype?" she asked. Ensign Liu, the Vanguard's lead engineer, straightened. "The teleportation drive is stable, Captain. We've tested it on smaller ships so far, but we're ready to go live with the Vanguard herself." "Good," Zara said, feeling a surge of confidence. "Then let's show the Empire what humanity is capable of." She paused, glancing at Harper. "Prepare a demonstration, on our terms, not theirs." Harper nodded and relayed her orders. The crew moved into action, positioning the Vanguard at the edge of their territory, just within striking distance of Krelix's fleet. They'd detected Empire scout ships in the area, likely sent to test Earth's response. Zara's mind buzzed with the strategy she'd spent days refining, and now it was time to see if it would hold up against the Empire's superior numbers. After a few moments, Harper spoke again. "Captain, All systems are online. Teleportation drive is charged. Zara leaned forward, her hands gripping the console as her gaze settled on the view screen, where the distant silhouettes of Empire scout ships hovered against the darkness of space. Engage the teleportation drive, she ordered, her voice steady. The Vanguard's engines pulsed, and a low hum resonated through the ship. There was a moment of disorienting quiet, as if the air itself held its breath. Then, with a flash of light, the stars outside the viewport shifted, and the Vanguard reappeared on the opposite side of the Empire's scouts. It was instantaneous. Seamless. A murmur of awe passed through the crew as the scanners confirmed their new position. Teleportation successful, Captain, Lou reported, her face lit with a mixture of relief and pride. No fluctuations in the drive. Everything's intact. Zara nodded, a flicker of satisfaction lighting her eyes. Now let's give Krellix's scouts something to think about. She turned to Harper. Open a line. The view screen blinked, and the face of an Empire scout commander appeared, his expression twisting into surprise as he recognized the Vanguard, a ship that had, only moments ago, been several thousand kilometers away. The commander's voice was thick with scorn, but Zara could see the flicker of unease in his eyes. Human vessel, he sneered, though his tone held a wary edge. What is the meaning of this incursion? Zara kept her face neutral. No incursion here, Commander. Simply ensuring our borders are respected. Her voice was cold and even. We'll respond if they aren't. The scout commander's lips curled in disdain, but he said nothing further, cutting the transmission. Zara watched as his ship and the others began to reposition themselves, clearly rattled by the Vanguard's sudden maneuver. Harper grinned beside her. I'd say we've got their attention. Good, Zara replied, her gaze fixed on the ships now scrambling to recalibrate their positions. Keep a close eye on their movements. I want to know the instant they step over the line. Minutes passed, and Zara felt the tension building. She knew Krellix wouldn't stop with scouts. He would be analyzing every maneuver they made, looking for weaknesses. She couldn't allow even a moment of hesitation. Her thoughts drifted back to her earlier conversation with him, his mocking laughter still echoing in her mind. It had only hardened her resolve. They'd see Earth's strength before this was over. A soft beep from the console interrupted her thoughts. Lou's voice came over the comm. Captain, we're detecting an energy surge from Krellix's fleet. Looks like they're gearing up for a larger assault. Zara's jaw tightened. That didn't take long. All right, crew, she said, raising her voice. Our mission here isn't just defense, it's to show them exactly what they're dealing with. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. As the crew scrambled to their stations, Harper gave her a nod of approval. You really think the teleportation drive can handle another jump, Captain? She met his gaze. It has to. We've got one shot at this. If we can outmaneuver them, we'll throw them off balance long enough to make them think twice about coming any closer. Harper's lips twitched in a grin. They won't know what hit them. The Vanguard hovered in silence, a lone human ship in the shadow of the Empire's imposing fleet. Yet Zara felt a surge of pride as her crew worked with unwavering focus, a silent determination lighting every face. Humanity had clawed its way into the stars, and this was the moment they would prove they belong. Target acquired, Harper reported. We're ready when you are, Captain. Zara gave a single nod. Execute teleportation sequence. Let's show the Empire exactly what primitive humans can do. Once more, the hum of the teleportation drive filled the air, and the Vanguard disappeared, reappearing instantly behind the Empire's main fleet. The Empire's ships, taken completely by surprise, scrambled to turn, their sensors flickering in confused response to the maneuver. Direct hit on the scout cruiser, Lou reported, her voice laced with triumph. They didn't see it coming. Zara allowed herself a rare smile. Then we've made our point. Open a transmission to the Empire's flagship. Moments later, Krellix's furious face appeared on the screen, his eyes narrowing at the sight of Zara. Captain, he growled, barely containing his anger. You think this is over? Zara met his glare with a steady gaze. We're just getting started, Lord Krelix. If you want to push, know that Earth is prepared to push back. Hard. Krelix's lips twisted in frustration, but he held his tongue, ending the transmission abruptly. As his image faded, Zara allowed herself a deep breath, the weight of her determination settling once more. The game had only just begun, but Earth had made its first move. Stand by, everyone, she said, her voice resolute. The Empire won't back down easily. But neither will we. Chapter 3: Testing Limits. The Vanguard was quiet in the aftermath of the confrontation, its crew buzzing with an electrifying mix of relief and anticipation. Captain Zara Quinn knew the silence wouldn't last long. They'd bought Earth a sliver of respect with their teleportation stunt, but it was a fragile thing, and the Empire wasn't one to let any challenge go unanswered. She needed a plan before Krelix sent something stronger their way. In her quarters, Zara reviewed the surveillance data. Krelix's fleet was in flux, repositioning as though searching for vulnerabilities in the Vanguard's defensive perimeter. The sight reminded her of the predatory animals she'd seen back on Earth, circling their prey, waiting for the right moment to strike. She understood that moment would come soon. The Empire was too proud to let humans score even a minor victory without retaliation. A chime broke her concentration. "Come in," she called. Lieutenant Harper entered, his face set in a grim expression. "Captain, our long-range scans just picked up another energy surge. This time it's a warship, one of their primary assault carriers. Krelix isn't holding back anymore." Zara nodded, unsurprised. "How long until they reach our position?" "Less than an hour at their current speed," Harper replied. "If they're using their full jump capacity, they'll arrive even sooner." She took a steadying breath. This was what they'd been preparing for, but no amount of training could fully prepare them for an assault carrier, a warship designed specifically to take down high-priority targets like the Vanguard. She could almost picture Krelix sneering, certain that the odds were in his favor. Zara didn't intend to give him that satisfaction. "Let's prepare to intercept," she said, her voice calm. "We're going to need every advantage the teleportation drive can give us." Harper's brow furrowed. "Captain, we've already used the drive twice in rapid succession. The engineers warned it could overheat if we push it much harder. We might risk a systems failure, or worse." "I understand the risks," Zara said, her tone measured but resolute. "But we can't afford to let them box us in. We'll need to be unpredictable, stay one step ahead." She paused, meeting his gaze. "And that means teleporting strategically, not just reacting." Harper nodded, his worry giving way to a spark of admiration. "Understood, Captain. I'll make sure the engineers monitor the drive closely. And if we have to run any emergency repairs, I'll coordinate with Lou to keep the drive stable." "Good," she replied. "Alert the crew. Everyone needs to be prepared for rapid maneuvers. This isn't just another exercise." As Harper left to carry out her orders, Zara pulled up the ship's holographic interface, mapping out possible positions for a confrontation with the Empire's warship. They couldn't meet it head-on, its firepower was too overwhelming. But if they used the teleportation drive to confuse and outmaneuver it, they might force the Empire to reconsider. The intercom crackled to life with Lou's voice. "Captain, I'm monitoring the drive's heat signatures. We're within operational limits, but I'll need to cool it down after each jump. If we're careful, it'll hold." "Understood, Lou. I trust you to keep us in the fight," Zara said, feeling a renewed surge of determination. Her crew was prepared to go all the way with her, even if it meant putting themselves at risk. She wouldn't let that loyalty be in vain. Minutes later, Zara was back on the bridge, watching as the warship's silhouette grew larger on the display. Krelix's tactics were becoming clearer. They were driving the Vanguard into a smaller region of space, reducing the chances of escape. Zara would have to break out of the trap before it closed around them. "All right, everyone," she addressed the crew. "Our objective is to evade and delay. We can't go toe-to-toe with this warship, but we don't have to. Harper, plot a series of short-range teleport jumps around their position. We're going to stay just out of their reach." "Aye, Captain," Harper replied, his fingers flying over the console. Ready to initiate jumps on your mark. Zara's gaze remained fixed on the screen, her mind racing as she visualized the movements. Execute jump 1. The familiar hum of the teleportation drive filled the air, and in an instant, the stars shifted. The Vanguard reappeared on the other side of the warship, which lurched forward, its sensors scrambling to readjust. Almost immediately, the warship opened fire, a barrage of plasma rounds slicing through the space they'd just vacated. Jump 2, Harper, Zara ordered. The ship blinked out again, this time reappearing closer to the warship's stern. They were still within the Empire's trap, but Zara could see the warship struggling to keep up, its targeting systems strained by the Vanguard's unpredictable movements. Captain, the teleportation drive's heat levels are reaching the red zone. Lou's voice came through, tense but steady. One more jump and we'll need to vent heat or face a potential shutdown. Zara weighed the options. They couldn't afford to stop now, not with the warship bearing down on them. We're going for it. Prepare to vent after the jump. Harper gave a tight nod. Coordinates locked. On your command? Jump 3. Now. The Vanguard shifted once more, the sudden displacement throwing them behind a small asteroid cluster that provided temporary cover. Zara watched the scanner as the warship adjusted again, its weaponry firing blindly, searching for a target. Lou, initiate cooling procedures, Zara ordered. Venting now, Lou replied, her voice steady despite the strain on the systems. The Vanguard's engine bays released a cloud of plasma, the rapid cooling preventing the drive from overheating. They'd bought themselves precious minutes, but Zara knew they couldn't keep it up indefinitely. On the screen, the Empire's warship seemed to hesitate, as if recalculating. Its commander was likely baffled by the Vanguard's agility, unable to predict their next move. We've thrown them off, but they'll adapt, Zara said to Harper. Prepare one last jump, a long-range displacement that'll put us on the far side of their fleet. If we're lucky, they'll believe we've retreated. Harper's eyes met hers, filled with determination. Let's do it, Captain. As the drive spooled up for the final jump, Zara took a deep breath. This was the riskiest maneuver they'd attempted, and the strain on the teleportation drive was nearing its limit. But it was their only shot. Ready, Harper? Ready. Engage. The Vanguard's final jump catapulted them across the battlefield, placing them far from the Empire's formation. The view screen filled with the distant, glittering lights of the warship's fleet as the Vanguard reappeared, drifting at the edge of their sensors. A slow silence filled the bridge as the crew waited, watching the fleet's movement. Seconds passed, and then, one by one, the Empire's warships adjusted course, falling back into their previous patrol routes. The trap had been evaded. Harper let out a quiet breath. Looks like they bought it, Captain. Zara allowed herself a small smile. For now. They'll regroup, and Krelix will be looking for any weakness we reveal. But we've shown them they can't corner us so easily. The crew relaxed slightly, the tension easing as they processed their narrow escape. They were safe, for the moment. But Zara knew this was only the beginning. Krelix wouldn't rest until Earth's defiance was crushed. Turning to Harper, she said, Send a report back to Earth. They need to know the Empire's escalated, and we need every available resource ready for whatever's coming next. As Harper moved to comply, Zara looked out at the vast, dark expanse, her mind already racing with the next steps. She'd won this round, but the Empire's war was far from over, and she would be ready. Chapter 4: The Hidden Ace. The Vanguard hung in the dark void, a lone defender against the Empire's encroaching fleet. After their last escape, Captain Zara Quinn knew they had only a brief respite before Krelix struck again. She reviewed the latest report from Earth Command, transmitted just after they sent word of the Empire's escalation. It was a mixed bag. Limited reinforcements were on the way, but full support was weeks out. They'd have to make do with what they had. On the bridge, the air was tense but focused. Zara addressed her crew, who'd seen back-to-back action without a full recharge. They were weary but resolute, each one committed to Earth's defense. Everyone, listen up, Zara began. We've shaken Krelix's forces twice now, but he's learned enough to make this next encounter serious. We can't afford to retreat, not with the limited reinforcements on their way. It's time to use every advantage we have, and then some. Harper stepped forward, his face shadowed with determination. Captain, we've received detailed intel from Earth Command on an experimental weapon they believe could turn the tide, a focused particle disruptor. It's designed to destabilize enemy shields long enough for us to break through. Why haven't we heard about this before? Zara asked, her surprise plain. It's still in prototype stages, Harper replied. But if we can install it, we might have a shot at damaging Krellix's main carrier. Zara looked over the specs that Harper had sent to her console. The weapon required extensive modifications to the Vanguard S systems, and it would consume an enormous amount of power. The teleportation drive and most primary systems would need to be offline temporarily for the disruptor to be fully functional. Lou, get your team on this immediately, Zara ordered. Focus on integrating the disruptor with our existing weapons system. We'll need it operational as soon as possible. Lou's voice crackled over the comm. Aye, Captain. It'll take some rerouting, but if we get it right, it'll be ready for action within the hour. As Lou and her team set to work, Zara assessed the rest of the situation. Krellix would anticipate their tactics by now. Unpredictability had bought them time, but the Empire was adjusting with every encounter. Zara's mind raced through options, her thoughts interrupted by Harper's voice. Captain, long-range scanners are picking up multiple energy signatures. They're moving fast. Zara's stomach twisted. It's Krellix, she said, more to herself than to anyone in particular. She knew he'd bring the full weight of his fleet this time, ready to corner the Vanguard. Harper confirmed her fear, studying the data. 4 destroyers and 2 cruisers, with Krellix's carrier at the center. They're spreading out, trying to limit our maneuverability. Zara nodded, steeling herself. Then let's make this fight count. Time to test the disruptor, and make sure Krellix knows Earth isn't a prize he can just take. The minutes passed in strained silence, as Lou's team raced to finish the weapons integration. Zara and Harper reviewed the Empire's formation, mapping out a possible attack. Finally, Lou's voice broke the silence. Captain, we're ready. The disruptor's online and fully operational. But we'll need to deactivate the teleportation drive for it to work. Once we engage the weapon, we're committed. Zara took a deep breath, considering the gravity of the decision. Understood. Let's get this right the first time. The Vanguard moved into position, gliding just outside the Empire fleet's sensor range. Krellix's flagship loomed at the center of the formation, bristling with weaponry. Zara knew that in a straight fight, they didn't stand a chance. But if the disruptor worked, they'd have a window, a small one, to punch through Krellix's shields and land a critical blow. Open a secure channel to Krellix's ship, Zara ordered. Harper glanced at her, a hint of surprise in his expression, but he obeyed. Moments later, Krellix's sneering face appeared on the view screen. Captain Quinn, he greeted, his voice a mocking drawl. I admire your persistence, if not your wisdom. Surely, by now, you must realize the futility of your resistance. Zara met his gaze, her expression unyielding. The only futility here, Lord Krellix, is your assumption that humanity will submit. We've beaten the odds before, and we'll do it again. Krellix's eyes narrowed, his confidence momentarily flickering. Brave words. But words will not save you. His smile returned colder than before. Prepare to surrender, Captain. You will be the first of many. The screen blinked off, leaving Zara and her crew with a renewed sense of urgency. They had one shot, and Krellix had made it clear he didn't intend to show mercy. Lou, activate the disruptor, Zara ordered. Target the carrier's shield core and fire on my mark. The ship's lights dimmed as power diverted to the disruptor. Outside, Zara watched the Empire's formation tighten, their ships moving into an aggressive stance. Fire! The Vanguard trembled as the disruptor released a beam of concentrated energy, striking the shield surrounding Krellix's flagship. For a moment, nothing happened, then the shield flickered, its glowing barrier dimming as the disruptor destabilized it. Direct hit, Harper reported, his voice taut with excitement. Their shields are down to 40%. Keep up the pressure, Zara commanded. If we can push through their defenses, they'll have to fall back. The Vanguard's weapons lit up, firing burst after burst at Krellix's ship. The disruptor strained under the power surge, but Lou's team held it together, squeezing every bit of energy from the weapon. On the screen, Krellix's flagship wavered, its shields buckling under the assault. Zara knew Krellix's fury was growing by the second. His flagship, the pride of the Empire fleet, was sustaining serious damage, and from a lone Earth ship, no less. But just as the Vanguard closed in for another strike, Harper's voice cut through the calm. Captain, the disruptor's overheating. We need to shut it down or risk a core meltdown. The tension in Zara's face softened into a grim decision. Disengage the disruptor. Lou, reroute power back to the teleportation drive. She had no choice. They couldn't risk a complete system failure, not with Krellix still in pursuit. The disruptor had given them an edge, but they needed to make one last escape. Krellix's fleet is reorganizing, Harper said. They're doubling back toward us, trying to box us in. Zara's mind raced. They'd used every trick they had, every tactic, every edge, but it wouldn't be enough if they were surrounded. The disruptor had bought them time, but Krellix would close in on them any second now. Harper, she said, her voice steady. Prepare for one last jump. Aim for the far side of Krellix's fleet, near the asteroid field. If we can get there, we might be able to lose them. The crew worked in synchrony, tension thick in the air. Harper gave her a quick nod. Coordinates locked, Captain. Zara took one final look at the Empire's flagship, still sparking from their assault. A small but satisfying victory. They might not have brought it down, but they'd proven Earth wouldn't go quietly. Engage the jump, she ordered. The Vanguard vanished from its position, reappearing on the outskirts of the asteroid field. The Empire's sensors wouldn't track them here, at least not immediately. As they drifted among the asteroid shadows, Zara finally allowed herself a deep breath. They'd fought off the Empire's finest once again, and this time they'd done it with Krellix watching, his ego bruised, his fleet damaged. For now they were safe. But Zara knew the Empire wouldn't rest, and neither would she. Chapter 5: The Final Stand. The Vanguard lay hidden in the shadows of the asteroid field, its systems humming quietly as Captain Zara Quinn surveyed the stars beyond. They dodged Krellix's assault once more, but it was clear the Empire wouldn't back down. Their last skirmish had proven humanity's strength, but Krellix's response would be as relentless as his pride was wounded. He wouldn't rest until Earth was silenced, or they managed a decisive blow that left his fleet crippled. A burst of static drew Zara's attention to the comms. Harper's voice crackled through. Captain, Earth Command just sent an urgent message. A fleet of reinforcements is on its way, but they're hours out. Command's ordered us to hold this sector until they arrive. Zara clenched her fists. They didn't have the firepower to hold against Krellix's carrier and his fleet, not for that long. But stalling them was their best shot at giving Earth Command's reinforcements time to arrive and hopefully turn the tide. Then we'll make our stand here, Zara said, her voice steady. They'll expect us to retreat. Let's surprise them by holding the line. Harper nodded, his gaze fierce. Aye, Captain. Ready to give 'em hell. She gathered her bridge crew, glancing over the tired but determined faces around her. They had all signed up knowing the risks, and each one was prepared to give their all. Listen up, Zara began, her voice carrying a quiet strength. We're facing the Empire's best, and our job is to hold them off. They're coming in fast, expecting us to run. But we're not just any target. We're the Vanguard, and this is where we show the Empire what Earth can do. Let's make every move count. They'll regret underestimating us. The crew exchanged determined glances, a shared resolve settling over them. Every eye on that bridge held a spark of defiance, a glimmer that mirrored Zara's own. Lieutenant Lou, she said, turning to her chief engineer, we need the teleportation drive fully operational, and the disruptor ready to go. We'll keep it on standby until the last possible moment, so Krelix won't see it coming. Lou gave a tight nod. Understood, Captain. I'll make sure both systems are primed and ready. And Harper, Zara continued, I want a rotation of maneuvers through the asteroid field. Keep us mobile and unpredictable. We'll use the field to our advantage, but we can't let them box us in. Harper acknowledged, a glint of excitement in his eyes. Got it, Captain? They'll have to work for every inch. As the Vanguard drifted into position, the sensors detected the Empire fleet moving into the sector. Krelix's flagship, bold and unyielding, led the charge. From this distance, it was a brutal sight, a hulking mass of reinforced metal and power designed to instill fear in its enemies. Krelix is hailing us, Harper reported. Let's see what he has to say, Zara replied. Krelix's face appeared on the view screen, his sneer as contemptuous as ever. Captain Quinn, this stubborn stand will be your last. You may have escaped once, but there will be no more second chances. Zara gave a small smile, unaffected. It must sting, knowing that one Earth ship has you so rattled, Krelix. We're not going anywhere. Krelix's expression darkened. Bravado won't save you. When I'm done with you, Earth will be nothing but a memory. The screen blinked off, and Zara's smile faded as she turned back to her crew. All right, everyone. This is it. Harper, prepare to initiate evasive maneuvers. Lou, get ready to bring that disruptor online. It's time to give Krelix a fight he'll never forget. The Vanguard moved like a shadow, weaving through the asteroid field as Krelix's fleet surged forward. Blasts of energy cut through the dark, some close enough to shake the ship, but Zara's maneuvers kept them just out of range. Each shot forced Krelix's forces to readjust, sapping their momentum. Captain, the enemy's trying to box us in again, Harper warned, scanning the readings. They're adapting to our movements. Good, Zara replied, her mind whirring. They're spreading themselves thinner. That's exactly what we need. Minutes passed, everyone stretched taut with tension. The Vanguard dodged and countered, using the field's dense rocks as shields, slipping in and out of cover. Krelix's forces pressed harder, their energy blasts slamming against the asteroids, shattering rocks into clouds of debris. Then, an alarm cut through the bridge. Lou's voice sounded over the intercom, calm but urgent. Captain, the disruptor is ready. I've rerouted power. It'll only be effective for a short window. Understood, Zara said. Harper, on my signal, take us in close to Krelix's flagship. We'll fire the disruptor, break through their shields, and hit them with everything we've got. The bridge fell silent, the weight of their mission settling over them. This was their final gamble, and every soul aboard knew it. Engage, Zara commanded. The Vanguard surged forward, breaking out of the asteroid field and darting toward Krelix's flagship. The Empire's ships closed in, trying to cut them off, but the Vanguard was too fast, its engines pushing to the limit. Krelix's shields are fully active, Harper reported. We'll be in range in seconds. Lou, fire the disruptor! A concentrated beam of energy shot out from the Vanguard, striking Krelix's flagship directly. The shield flickered, then faltered, opening a vulnerable gap. Now! All weapons target the bridge! Zara ordered. The Vanguard's cannons blazed, unleashing a barrage of firepower aimed directly at Krelix's flagship. Explosions tore across its surface, ripping through armor and destabilizing its systems. For a moment, the might of the Empire faltered. Krelix's flagship is sustaining heavy damage, Harper reported, his voice tight with excitement. Their systems are destabilizing. But the Empire wasn't finished. Krelix's other ships rallied, their combined fire raining down on the Vanguard, shaking it violently. Shields at critical levels, Lou warned. Zara held firm. Hold position as long as we can. We have to make this count. The Vanguard pushed forward, firing relentlessly as Krelix's flagship buckled under the assault. One more hit, Zara thought, one decisive blow, and the Empire would know the cost of Earth's defiance. Just as the final barrage fired, Krellix's ship began to break apart, explosions rippling across its hull. The bridge erupted into cheers, the sound a cathartic release of the crew's tension and determination. "Krellix's ship is going down!" Harper shouted. "We did it, Captain!" Zara allowed herself a rare smile, watching as the flagship shattered, debris scattering in the void. But her celebration was brief, her focus returning to the fleet around them. "Status on the other ships?" she asked. Harper scanned the sensors. "They're withdrawing. They know they're outmatched." Zara nodded, relief washing over her. They'd done it, held the line, forced Krellix's forces to retreat. Earth Command's reinforcements would arrive to find a battered but victorious vanguard and a path cleared to defend humanity's borders. As the crew settled down, Harper turned to Zara, his face filled with admiration. "Captain, you just made history. The Empire won't forget this." "Neither will Earth," she replied softly. "This isn't the end. Krellix's Empire may come back with everything they have, but we've shown them that Earth won't fall. Not today, not ever." The vanguard drifted in the quiet aftermath of battle, battered but unbroken. And for the first time in weeks, Zara allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. They had survived, and in doing so, had proven Earth's spirit to the galaxy.